interview is part of the History Heard project. The content of this interview may be used for historical research. However, no part of the interview itself may be reproduced without the express written permission of an authorized representative of History Heard. Today is June 5th, 2009 at 12 o'clock. This is an interview with Scott Sauerbeck in Bradenton, Florida. He was born on November 9th, 1971 in Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay, so at the end of spring training in 1999, you stayed with the parent team. So you were a Major League Baseball player. And how did you find out? Do you remember the moment that you found out?
I was called into the last day of spring training. I wasn't certain whether I had made the team or not, and there was 3 cuts they still had to make. So I showed up that day really, really early, and like 2 hours before stretch. So 2 hours before I normally got there, and I didn't want to change into my uniform because I didn't want to change into my uniform and then find out I didn't make the team and then have to get back into my street clothes and go home. So I showed up really early and I just sat in my street clothes until like 5 minutes before the stretch, and finally the pitching coach called me off to the side and said I'd made the team, get dressed so I'm not late for stretch, and don't say anything because they still had some other moves to make. So I actually made the team, but I wasn't allowed to tell anybody, so that was a little hard considering it was my first time ever. So
Very cool. And on opening day in 1999, you were able to pitch with the Pirates, and that was like a big dream for so many kids that are born like all the time that want to be baseball players. So what did it feel like to be able to live out that?
I always thought I would be really, really nervous, and I don't know, I got out there and I was completely calm, completely whatever. And it was a little weird. I was just happy that my parents were there and my best friend from college was there, and then I was on TV. That was it. And I was like, it didn't really matter to me what happened from after that because nobody could take away that one moment that I had right then because I did that. So nothing else really mattered. Like one of those, okay, I made it, I did my dream, now I'm done. But I wasn't done, but it was just...
Yeah.
I was just glad people were there to see it, and like I said, I thought I would have been super nervous, but I was actually kind of, I guess there was so much hype that I was so nervous leading up to it that once it finally happened, it was anticlimactic, so to say.
And at the end of the season in 2000, they destroyed the Three Rivers Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And so how did it feel to play your last game there? Was it like nostalgic or anything?
Yeah, especially since I was the losing pitcher. It was, it was really, really sad. I had a flight out that night. It was a day game, I believe, or a later afternoon game, and I had a flight out, so I had to run in and shower and get out of there in a hurry. And I missed all the closing ceremonies, but I saw all the older players and stuff. A lot of guys were crying, and it didn't really hit me until like the next day when I saw everything tumble and all that stuff. But it was, I don't know, it was weird. It was such a dump. Sorry for that language on the thing. It was such a bad stadium to play baseball in that we were actually happy for it to go. So.
Yeah. And can you tell the difference between different stadiums when you're like on the field?
In terms of like the playing surfaces,
I mean,
or
just like different stadiums, like nicer stadiums and like.
Yeah, every place has its own little aura or whatever you want to call it. Like if you're at Wrigley Field and it's a nice sunny day, it smells of stale beer and suntan lotion. But it's kind of and hot dogs.
Yeah.
So other places like Tampa here it's kind of like you can hear the thunder, but you're playing inside and you can hear people talking on their cell phones or their cell phones ringing, and everything kind of echoes and reverberates. It's almost like you're in a mall. So it's not a lot of atmosphere, but every place has something that's kind of unique to itself, and you kind of pick up on it. So.
What is the funniest or most memorable thing you can think of in your career?
I want to say, I don't know what year it was. We were in Pittsburgh, and they had these pierogi races, and there was one pierogi named Sauerkraut Saul that had lost every race the entire year. He was 0-80. You only have 81 home games, or maybe 82. I don't know what it is, but he was 0-80. Well, the team had taken out a full-page ad in the paper that tonight he was guaranteeing victory and all this stuff. And the players, we had kind of caught word that they had planned for this Sauerkraut Saul guy to win. They had spent like $50,000 on this elaborate fireworks. They had fire trucks. They had all this stuff. And 4 of us in the bullpen decided we'd put jackets on over us, and we took we had black sleeves at the time, we tied them over our heads, and where the pierogies, the race actually ended, was down by our bullpen. And right before they ended, we kind of came out of the wall and grabbed sauerkraut saw and pinned them down, and 2 of us dragged another pierogi across. And it was funny because they had like 2 girls that were like beauty pageant queens standing there, and they didn't know what to do. The fireworks didn't go off, so it ended up costing the team like $50,000 or $60,000 because they had hired a fire department to block off all the streets and everything. And after the game, the media relations or the marketing people came in and were demanding to know who it was. And everybody just kind of looked at them and just laughed at them and told them to get out of the clubhouse. So that was kind of funny.
Nice. And who is your favorite baseball player?
Growing up, it was, when I was younger, it was Pete Rose, and then as I got to high school, it was Eric Davis. So from Cincinnati, so they were Cincinnati Reds.
Okay, so in the movie, did you ever see the movie For the Love of the Game?
Yeah.
I figured you did.
Chick flick.
Yeah. Well, like Kevin Costner goes out on the mound and he's like tunes everything out.
Mm-hmm.
And is it like that, or like what's it like when you?
Was that when he says like he clears the mechanism?
Yeah.
If it was that simple, everybody would be able to do it. I think as an athlete, especially a pitcher, you have the most amazing ability to focus. My wife yells at me all the time because if I'm typing an email or doing something, a fire or everything else can be going off around me, and I'm oblivious to it because I'm just concentrating on whatever is at hand. So you hear all that stuff. Sometimes it's so loud you can't even hear yourself. You might say something like, "Oh, come on, Scott, let's go. I need to throw a strike here." And I'll say it in the exact same voice that I'm talking in now, but I can't hear the words coming out of my mouth. I can hear myself or feel my lips moving, but you just can't hear. So if it gets that loud, and you just concentrate on the fingers the catcher puts down and try to relax.
And when you watch baseball games on TV, they're like sometimes during like tense situations or something, like a third baseman or a first baseman will like come out and talk to the pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
How do those conversations go?
It's usually along the lines of, "Hurry up, strike this guy out, I'm hungry," or "I just wanted to come in and tell you there was a good-looking girl sitting above the dugout that's screaming your name. Should I tell her you're single?" Or those are like 80% of the time. That's what goes on. But that goes on with, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to play behind the runner. I'm not going to hold him on," or "I'm at this depth." So you're out there and you talk a little strategy and then you just have fun. So.
Well, I guess that's how it's supposed to go.